Have you ever wondered why your stress feels higher, your sleep feels off, or your cycle suddenly feels, I don't know, a bit unpredictable, especially after gallbladder issues or removal surgery? Have you ever considered that there's even a correlation between our hormones and getting a gallbladder out? What if I told you your gallbladder and hormones were more connected than anyone warned you? What does bile have to do with PMS, melatonin, or your thyroid? And why are estrogen and progesterone even part of this conversation? Today, we'll be pulling back the curtain on 5 sneaky, science backed ways your hormones are impacted when your gallbladder is sluggish or gone, and what you can do right now to start feeling more balanced, energized, and clear headed. You'll walk away with practical, doable steps that make a real difference because your hormones deserve backup and your body deserves answers. So let's dig in.
Gallbladder gone. Now what? Let's heal from the inside out.
Welcome to Gallbladder Gone? Now what? The podcast for Christian women navigating life after gallbladder removal. Hosted by Jami McQuivey, holistic nutritionist, wife, boy mum, grandma, and a firm believer in God's design for lasting health. Did you know that over 1.2 million Americans have their gallbladders removed every year, and that the majority of them are women? Even more eye-opening is that all gallbladder issues are digestive issues. And poor digestion is at the root of up to 80% of all disease, including hormone imbalances and weight struggles. While Jami isn't a doctor and this podcast isn't medical advice, she shares real solutions rooted in research, experience, and God's Word. Let's get practical, biblical, and real, one step at a time.
Thank you, and welcome back to Welcome back. Thank you for joining me, friends. As usual, I want to start out with a scripture that I absolutely love. It's in Jeremiah 30, verse 17. I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee of thy wounds, saith the Lord. I love this scripture because it's a gentle but strong reminder that my body is not broken. Your body is not broken. Even after something like gallbladder removal, we're not broken. Healing is possible and restoration is promised. And that's what I'm here to help you do, is get out of the woods and into clarity into how we can start living the life that God has planned for us, and instead of planning our life around illnesses and weaknesses. So here we go. We're going to jump right in to the top 5. So this does not mean that there are only 5. It just means these are the top 5 science-backed information that you need to know about hormones and some actionable steps along the way. So the first one is increased cortisol and stress response. So research has said that major surgeries like cholecystectomies or gallbladder removals trigger stress responses in the body, activating them, activating the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal gland axis, which is your HPA axis, and elevating cortisol levels. That was a mouthful. So pretty much what it does is the stress of getting a surgery and even the stress of being unwell, being sick, causes our cortisol and stress response to spike. The crazy thing about this is that after surgery, or even after we start to feel a little bit better, sometimes our body stays in that response. And so we need to get out of that cortisol response and out of that stress response. So, how do we do that? So, the first thing we do is we prioritize stress reduction tools. These look like mindfulness, gentle movement, and breath work. So let's talk about mindfulness in a minute. A lot of people, that's kind of like this word that's being thrown around. Mindfulness is just being very aware of what you're doing without distraction. So it could be eating your dinner without your phone there and looking at your food, smelling your food, chewing your food, being engaged in conversation around you, those type of things on a walk. How about not putting in earphones and just walking and looking at the trees and listening to the birds and even the traffic, just being very aware. So that's mindfulness, is being able to move and be in a place that we can be focused. So many of us are scatterbrained, and when we're that scatterbrained, I can always tell when I'm dipping into a stress response when I can't read. I sit down and I just can't concentrate. I just can't focus. My mind is wandering. I need to practice a little bit more mindfulness. Now, gentle movement. So, as women, oftentimes we think if a little is good, a lot must be better. And I'm here to say it's not. That especially around your cycle, your period, about 3 days before and 2 days after, it's best to just walk and do some stretching and really have this gentle movement. So many people will say, oh, well, I like to go running because it relaxes me. It actually doesn't. It increases stress responses for 99% of us. And it's the adrenaline that makes us feel better and then drops us and makes us tired. So, really doing that gentle movement. Another one is that breath work. And I have in my course a whole class on breath work and the different types and when to employ them. But you can start off with a simple box breathing, right? Is it inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and keep doing that. One of the things I like to do is get an app that has a timer that will click every 4 seconds, because I end up going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and going, oh, that's not that mindfulness breath work. And I'm going too fast because I'm in a stress response. The other thing is we want with this cortisol and stress response is we want to maintain a balanced blood sugar routine. So eat balanced meals often and avoid extreme carb spikes. So that's processed carbs. I'm all about whole grains, whole beans, whole grain breads. I make from fresh milled wheat here in my home that actually balance out all my blood sugars. So I know again when I'm stressed and I forget to eat, or I'm eating irregularly, or I'm eating too fast, that my blood sugar goes wonkadoo and then I can get headaches and crashes. So this is something that I like to put into my everyday life. Especially again that 3 days before and 2 days after your period starts, because we do need additional calories to make those hormones that our body so desperately needs. All right. The second science-backed ways the gallbladder problems and removal can affect your hormones is decreased melatonin and sleep disruptions. I hear this from so many of my clients and my students that they're just having a hard time sleeping. Now, I do have a whole section again in my course about, it's a whole hour and a half of like how to sleep, when to sleep, what type of sleeping disorders there are. There's Kapha, Pitta, Vata ones. So it's a little bit, I don't want to say more complex, but it's a little bit more involved and you can get really strategic. But what the science is saying, what research is saying, is that melatonin supports gallbladder contractility and cholesterol to bile conversion. And gallbladder removal has been linked to lower melatonin levels and disrupted sleep. And heavens, I am not a happy person when I don't get good sleep. And that's why in previous podcasts, I talk about also using a castor oil pack, because that castor oil pack can help me sleep. And then I can always make better decisions and be happier and more productive and feel better when I've slept. So, what can we do to optimize the natural melatonin? So, we start to have a sleep or a nighttime routine. It's like dim lights at night. So, this is one of my favorite things. When we come into my room, I have a lamp and I've put a black light in it. And I've done this ever since my kiddos were babies. And because when they were fussing and I needed a nurse and I needed a light, I didn't want to turn on the whole light and I didn't want to wake everybody up. So I ended up getting a black light. And so I've just used them for 25 years. And it's nice because if I have a thought and I need to write down a quick note, I can turn on my black light and write a quick note and turn it off, and it doesn't end up waking me up all the way or my husband. So, starting to understand when about an hour or two before you're ready to go to bed, start dimming lights, start putting away your phone, and the next thing is get that morning sunlight. So, like before 8 o'clock, if you can, always go out, and if you can just send 10 to 15 minutes out on a walk. So I like to get my sun, my fresh air, and my movement, my gentle movement first thing in the morning, and that will help to get your body into a rhythm. And there also are, I know a lot of people like these low dose melatonin supplements. But that's something I would, consult your doctor about, or, but I would use them rarely because, again, if we're going with common versus normal, it's common for people not to be able to sleep. It's not normal. So we don't want to be taking medications to make us go to sleep. We need to understand why we're not sleeping and fix that problem because it's a natural and normal thing to sleep. So if that's not coming naturally and normally, then we can take a little bit more of a deep dive. All right, so the third of the fifth science-backed ways gallbladder problems or removal can affect our hormones is the thyroid slowing and bile flow. So research says that T4, so thyroxine, influences bile acid flow. So lower T4 has been associated with sluggish bile flow and higher gallstone risk. And so again, our gallbladder is not an organ unto itself. It is attached, we know, to the liver, right? And they're like best friends. But that also doesn't mean that it's not involved in a whole digestive process that has organs, direct organs, and it has accessory organs. So we do need to be taking care of all of our body parts. All right. So what can we do? You can get your thyroid panel tested if you have symptoms like fatigue or cold intolerance after having gallbladder issues. So you can support also thyroid function with selenium-rich foods. So these are Brazil nuts, and you can take supplements, but if you can get it in your food, it's probably better. Um, I also love, and there's a lot of science about adding seaweed or kelp every day. Now, I'm not a fishy fish person. I don't like seaweed. I'm like nori is really gross to me, but my son loves it. And I keep telling him, you're so lucky that you love nori and seaweed. But for those of us who don't, we can get it in capsules and we can make sure that we're getting all those rich minerals. Make sure it's a clean source. All right. The fourth science-backed ways gallbladder problems or removal can affect our hormones is with our estrogen and progesterone imbalance. So research says the gallbladder contains estrogen and progesterone receptors, and estrogen exposure slows bile emptying and raises cholesterol saturation, heightening the gallstone risk. So hormone therapies and contraceptives further increase gallbladder disease and removal rates. So that goes into my hormone program. Please, 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 if you are having digestive and hormone programs, consider joining my DIY course. You will not regret it. Balancing these hormones, especially as we age, is so important. So we want to be careful of things like hormonal birth control, hormone replacement therapy. And this is one thing that is controversial, and I'll tell you what side I'm on. So they talk about phytoestrogens. So like soy, stay away from soy because it's phytoestrogen rich. That is old science, and there's a lot of information out about that now, is that xenoestrogens, so those are the ones found in our environment from toxins and chemicals, will force themselves into our cells and really wreak havoc on our estrogen receptors. However, phytoestrogens, which are plant estrogens, I mean, think about this. God knows. He has planned, he knows. Phytoestrogens, they're now finding out, are protecting our estrogen receptors. So having lots of those, like if you like soy and tofu and all of that, just make sure they're organic and make sure they're non-GMO. And now we have major doctors in the breast wellness communities who are, cancer doctors for breast cancer are now saying that women need to be eating it at least 2 to 3 times a week, eating tofu or some soy-based products. So don't let that scare you. All right. Um, then let me see. So support estrogen metabolism with fiber, cruciferous vegetables, and supportive herbs. So I'm going to tell you, yes, get your veggies in, please, 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 and fiber. But I'm going to tell you one of my absolute favorite things to do to balance estrogen, progesterone, actually all hormones, is beans. Why, you say? Because the fiber in beans, if you don't eat them with oil, so when we're doing this medicinally, when I'm doing this with my clients, we take oil away and we use the beans as medicine because beans love to sop up oil or lipids, right? And so a lot of these hormones that are excess in our systems are lipid based. So if you can start taking beans as a form of medicine. So I had this client, here's a quick story. And she had a lot of hormone imbalance and would every once in a while get these anxiety attacks. And she called me, she goes, I feel an anxiety attack coming on. My hormones are all over the place. I don't know what to do. She's starting to panic. I said, okay, this is what I want you to do. Open up a can of beans, and I want you to take 1 tablespoon of beans every 20 minutes. Just chew it and swallow it. And then call me in an hour or two. Well, it was about 2 hours because I was out of town. She calls back and she's like, oh my gosh, I feel completely grounded. I feel completely okay. And so she started using that as her main way when she started to feel her stress or her hormones get out of balance. That was what she reached for. So another thing is a lot of us with the what is it? Birth control. There are absolute alternatives to hormonal birth control, and I would encourage every woman listening to this, especially young women, because birth control is now there's so much information about how it's destroying gut health, how it's destroying hormonal health. It's hard to get pregnant, all of these things. Um, and you can, I've never been on birth control because of that. And so I had 3 sons when I wanted to, healthy babies and have never used birth control. So there are ways to do that to be safe and to be consistent and to know all about your body so you know when you're fertile and you know when to take precautions. So that I discuss that in my hormone course as well. All right. The fifth reason, or the fifth science-backed way gallbladder problems or removal can affect hormones is that it impairs that estrogen clearance that leads to hormone dominance that we were just kind of talking about. It's a little bit different. So there's an imbalance, and now this is leading into dominance. So bile is essential for excreting estrogen metabolites via the liver. While bile flow stagnates or when the gallbladder is gone, estrogen clearance slows, leading to PMS, acne, irritability, bloating, and in my experience, weight gain. And so we'll be talking about that in the next episode because it's a big deal. So, what do? We need to keep our bile thin. Drink plenty of water, add lemon, apple cider vinegar about a half hour before meals. Drink a whole bunch so your mucosal lining is nice and hydrated. You're hydrated, your hydrochloric acid is going, is building. Consume some bitters and then keep a rhythm of doing these things before each meal. So we talked about considering the bile salt supplements, and I have those linked in the show notes, my favorite supplement bundle for gallbladders, and support regular elimination with daily fiber and movement to clear hormones efficiently. So if you're constipated, if you're not going once a day, at least once a day, and it's easy and it's smooth and it's complete, then you're constipated. Okay, so constipation doesn't have to hurt, and it's not just when you go once a week. It's if you're not going every day, one full bowel movement that feels complete, then we're constipated and we need to work on that. So do I have some things for you? But first, by understanding how the gallbladder ripples into our endocrine system, now you can balance and protect your well-being. So this is the end of this episode, but to get all my resources, I put together PDFs so you can have a visual, so you can see what I'm talking about. Click the show notes. And today we talked about 5 ways that the gallbladder health or lack of gallbladder and hormones are related and how to support them. So if you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and to start actually doing the work to get your digestion and hormones and weight balanced and to feel great, this course is for you. It is my 7 principles to heal digestion, manage weight, and balance hormones. This is the cool part, is it's actually kind of a twofer. So there's one link for women who are still menstruating, right? Or still cycling. And then there's another link for women who are postmenopausal. And so it's important that the younger women get the information about their cycle that's still going on, and that the older women are getting the information about how to support their body after that point. So I've designed it very specifically for those 2 subsets of women. Also, if you're a man here listening, great. Choose the latter one, the one with menopausal women, and it's for menopausal women and men. So there is something for you as well. All right, so with this, you get 20 hours of informed faith teaching, down to earth, practical application, very understandable. You get actionable tools. It's clear, it's a roadmap, it's fantastic. And so the link is in the show notes. With that said, you can also, if you're an iOS user, get it on the app. I'm super excited about this whole app thing because it makes it so much easier. And if you want to join our community, and I'm just starting it up, so you may be one of the first ones in there, I don't know. Come join the Facebook group, and there's a link also in the show notes. But it's like group therapy, but there's less crying and more breakthroughs. So I'll be answering questions, and I'll also be taking ideas for future episodes for those who really want to go a little bit deeper. All right, so I've also linked my No Gallbladder Now What digestive supplement bundle, some of the supplements that we mentioned here today. So you can just go to one place. You don't have to be shopping around. You get the highest quality. And I want to just thank you for hanging out with me. And I'll see you in the next episode 11, which is pretty cool. It's 3 reasons gallbladder removal is keeping you chunky. So it's about why we gain weight or can't lose the weight and how to fix that. So I will see you then.
If this episode encouraged you or offered practical insight, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Leaving a review, subscribing, and sharing with even one friend helps more people discover this message, and Jami is truly grateful for your support. Be sure to check the show notes for free downloads, helpful resources, and a link to join Jami's private Facebook group for extra support and community that blends practical health with biblical truth. Just a reminder, Jami isn't a doctor, so always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your health plan.